A new Ferrari, a new BMW M car, a new Nissan, and a new Fiat. Meanwhile, Land Rover makes the Evoque go topless. These cars and more in our Geneva Auto Show preview. That's right, folks. On this Car Tech Live, March 1st, 2012, we are going to be talking Geneva Auto Show, which happens next week.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Not only for the free trip to Switzerland, but definitely there have been some interesting cars that have been popping up over this last week, especially.
There's a lot of cars that we've been seeing. Every car company usually releases a few photos or some sketches or some kind of indication of what they're going to be showing at Geneva. But, the big one, of course, anytime there's a new Ferrari, everybody goes crazy.
Except for, no one seemed to really care about the California or the FF, really. I mean,
I like the FF, but
I love the FF. But
didn't have as much impact, it didn't seem. And the California, I can't get excited about that one.
It's the Porsche Boxster of Ferraris, the California is. But what we're talking about right now is yesterday morning, actually, Ferrari unveiled on their own website the new F12 Berlinetta. One long alphanumeric mess of a name, but it's basically their 599 replacement, and it is the most powerful, the fastest Ferrari that they've ever built. It's more powerful even than the 599 XX, the race special that last week we said there's no way possible they'd match that, because this one outputs 740 horsepower.
Wow.
So that's just
700. How do they get 740?
It's Italian. I don't know. something Italian. Something Italian. I don't know. It's they basically have they've got the engine's really light. I guess they're using a lot of the same technology that they were using in the 59XX, but then with the new V12 engine, I think that they've kind of debuted on the FF that we just mentioned.
Right, they'll be using direct injection in that, which they've been using in their most recent cars to pump up the horsepower. That gives it more efficiency, but no turbos in this thing.
No, all naturally aspirated.
Right, that's a classic Ferrari.
Well, if you got 12 cylinders, I mean, you really need a turbo.
Yeah, and what's the displacement on this again?
6.2, 6.3 liters. It's in between there. It depends on how Ferrari chooses to round that. But it's like 6,200 some odd cc's.
Wow. It's impressive that they can get that much horsepower out of this car.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an F1 kind of thing. It probably makes a very F1-y noise. The red line's pretty lofty. The interesting thing here also is that it's putting out somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 and some odd pound-feet of torque. Lost the number in there.
Right, a little more horsepower, a lot more horsepower than torque.
Yeah,
which
basically kind of lets you know that all that horse. I mean, the way that works is when you see that much more horsepower than torque, you know the red line is going to be pretty high up.
Yeah. So yeah, high compression engine, I'm sure. This car looks. I don't know. I'm not sure if it looks good yet. It's actually got some pretty distinct features, distinct contour lines. I don't even really like this side contour line. And this is, of course, seeing a photo, and lots of times you see a car in person, and it's like totally different experience.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually looking more like a rendering. I'm pretty sure that these photos have been heavily doctored to kind of bring those contour lines to the forefront, make them more obvious, I guess. Someone mentioned that it looked like a snake with wheels, and I can't unsee that now. But yeah, they've got some interesting sort of they've even though the engine's in the front, the transmission's in the back, kind of like we're used to seeing in this class of Ferrari vehicle. So they've got the weight balance is biased towards the rear by about 6%. The vehicle overall is a couple 100 pounds lighter than the 599 that goes out, and then they've also made it not only slipperier through the air, it has a lower coefficient of drag, but it also generates about 200 and some odd pounds more downforce. So it's both generating more downforce and generating less drag at the same time, and they do some very interesting things to make that happen. They start with this thing called an air bridge at the front of the vehicle that kind of like pushes down on the front of the vehicle, but at the same time brings the air up and over the body, so it reduces aerodynamic drag and also reduces that sort of pocket of air that you get as you behind the vehicle. And then they also have these active shutters on the brake vents. So the brake vents at the front of the vehicle only open up when the brakes are hot. So you're not just like generating aerodynamic drag, cooling off brakes that are already cool when you're just blowing down the Autobahn, for example.
Right. And these contours are probably mostly functional. I imagine that, like when the Nissan GTR came out, they people commented on some of the weird lines in that, but Nissan said, hey, every little bit was designed for maximum aero efficiency and downforce and all this kind of stuff. So everything really worked.
Right. Well, I mean, there's probably definitely, they work with Pininfarina to kind of maintain the kind of style. So it's like they want similar proportions to the 599, that sort of like long hood, passengers sit way in the back, close to the center of the wheel well. They want that GT car sort of form factor. So a lot of this is just style. I mean, I'm pretty sure those headlights look that way because that's the way Ferrari wanted them to look.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, they also kind of brought their own sort of design center in on the design, so that the aerodynamic things that they wanted to happen are also integrated in.
Now, what do you think of the face of this car? I'm looking at a picture of the front of it, and it has a very distinct face. It's got a big, wide sort of grin, a little evil-looking grin, and certainly the headlights make eyes. I mean, they certainly have an eye look to them.
Well, I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you were talking about the side. And, I mean, my personal opinion is that this is probably the ugliest vehicle Ferrari's ever built. It doesn't look good. It just doesn't.
And that's competing with the 308. Which
yeah, I mean, it's not a good looking vehicle, but I mean, it looks purposeful.
Yeah.
And it looks fast. And who knows, maybe it'll grow on me when I see it in person. Maybe nobody cares what I think because I can afford a Ferrari anyway, so I'm not really their target market.
Well, if you can't afford a Ferrari, then there may be the BMW M6, which also will be a pretty good performance car. They have a new one they just announced. They announced a little while ago, and this is also should be at the show here. This one, so the 0 to 60 time with that Ferrari, the new F12 is 3.1 seconds, I think they said.
3.10 to 62. So
yeah,
just a tick under for 60.
And the new M6 is 4.2 seconds, so it's pretty slow compared to
the
Ferrari. But so this M6 is based on the new 6 Series, which we actually have one in the garage right now. Not the M6, but the new 6 Series. So it's got the same body lines as that new one, but also has the M stuff like the kind of slightly bulging hood and some of the other things. They're also boasting with this car, though, and I don't think this is going to be the case with the Ferrari, with the M6, that they're looking at an average fuel economy of about 24 miles per gallon.
Yeah, I think I did the math on the Ferrari, and I think it's like just under 20 highway. Because they're saying it's 30% more efficient than the old 599, so I went back and looked at the old 599 and added 30% to it.
Yeah.
And it's about 20, so...
Well, this new M6 will have the BMW's twin scroll or 4.4 liter engine with 2 twin scroll turbochargers, which gets a ton of power out of this thing.
So this is like the engine on the M5.
Yeah,
it's sort of like 4 scrolls total.
Exactly, and that's one thing that makes the new M6 somewhat less exciting because it really has the same driveline, the same character or the same driving technology as the M5.
But the M5 is pretty exciting in and of itself, and if you don't want a sedan, the M6 definitely looks better than the last generation of M6. Even though I still take issue with the rear end of it. But I mean, if you want that sort of like M5 vehicle, but you just can't live with the idea of 2 more doors, get an orange M6.
Right. It's like the M5. That's for family men. I want a race car.
I want less headroom.
Of course, they'll also make the M6 in a convertible for you if you want that. Which
the convertible M cars make me roll my eyes. They just do.
Yeah. How can you kind of not? I'm sure this will be a stellar performer. Although, like most of the big M cars like this, using them on the road is such a waste because when you're just driving around on public roads, you use maybe 10% of the potential.
Well, as I understand, the new M5 is really comfortable though. So even if you're not using that potential, that trip to the track
right.
is really nice.
Yeah. Then once you get it on the track, you can rip up your tires.
Have you seen all those videos on YouTube comparing the M5 to the GTR?
Oh no.
There's like all these videos on YouTube popping up where it's just like putting them head to head, and it's pure link bait because those cars do not belong in the same class. For the money, though, I think I'd buy the M5.
Yeah, interesting. Well, certainly.
Well, I mean, I think you my rationale is the GTR is definitely a faster car, but I think you pick up more chicks with the M5.
Right. Everybody look at the GTR and go like, "Oh, what's
Oh, that looks like it fell out of an anime.
Yeah.
You must be one of those nerdy car guys.
And when somebody rides in the passenger seat, they're going like, let's take my car instead.
It's really rough.
Let's take
Pretty
my
much.
Jetta instead.
In the M5, you turn on the comfort mode.
Yeah.
You listen to the premium audio system.
Well, that's the dual personality nature of BMWs. I'm always so impressed with those. That they have. Sure, they have their incredibly aggressive sport mode. Then you change a few buttons, and suddenly it's just like drive through the country kind of thing. Yeah,
just like me. Just like me.
Just like you. Well, let's take it down a notch to something a little more pedestrian, maybe.
Okay.
Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi has been kind of
Crap. No, not crap, but confused. They've been a very confused brand.
Yeah, they've been doing some weird things in the U.S., launching different cars, and none of them have really quite caught on. Although they do have the IMEV, which was the kind of the opinion of their green credentials.
And all of their Lancer variants are interesting. And by Lancer variants, I count the Outlanders.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of become their whole stock in cars. I think they still make the Eclipse, but I don't know why.
I think the Eclipse. I think it's due to be discontinued soon,
yeah,
but I mean, the Eclipse is a classic case of how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah,
one of the first real performance cars that you can get as a Japanese import. It's kind of become a two-door Galant now, and it's horrible.
Right. But apparently they're going to launch something new at Geneva, and they've just released a picture of the front of this car. It's got some intriguing styling things, and the idea is that they're relaunching sort of the brand in Europe. Is kind of my takeaway from this.
Mm-hmm.
That they will have a new line of cars, they'll have new technologies, new stuff to show off. Maybe hopefully a really cohesive brand identity will come out of this.
Or they'll just start putting this nose on their Lancer variants.
That could be too. That might be the case.
This looks like it's a very SUV look to the front end.
It does, yeah.
So I mean, I'm guessing it's like some sort of Outlander design study.
Yeah, I think it could be that, and I also think they're trying to maybe gain more European market share. So whatever we see there may not have any impact on the U.S. market. Hopefully, I mean, I'd like to see this company come up with some, cohesive vision and stuff like that. Do something kind of like Kia and Hyundai have done, and really, come out with new cars and new exciting cars. But we'll see.
Well, they could basically kill the Eclipse, wait a couple of years, and bring it back awesome again. I mean, that'd be great. A smaller Eclipse, because the thing got huge.
Oh, yeah.
Bring back the all-wheel drive system that used to be optional. That used to make it great. And a small turbocharged engine. And they'd have something to fight the FT86. People would start caring about Mitsubishi again. And then from there, they could go. Well, I mean, I guess they've got the Lancer. The Lancer Evo kind of already is that. So.
Yeah, although I hear there's rumors they're going to discontinue the Evo.
Well, I mean, there's also rumors that Subaru is going to discontinue the WRX. So I think we may start. This may actually be the beginning of the end for those 300-400 horsepower all-wheel drive Econo boxes.
Which is too bad.
Well, I mean, because we've got this new generation of Veloster turbos and the Genesis Coupe. People are starting to be more interested in lightweight rear-wheel drive vehicles. So the Genesis Coupe Turbo and the Toyota and Subaru FT86 clones are probably going to fill in that space.
Right, but
they're also more efficient.
Yeah, but I think Mitsubishi is just giving you your prescription for success here. That was the new Eclipse.
Bring the Eclipse back.
Right. You'll be whisked away to Japan to design this new car, I think, soon.
Definitely. I'm all over that.
Nissan is coming out with a new vehicle in Geneva. This is actually a concept called the Invitation, but it shows what looks like a production level car. Although
looks like if in an alternate reality Nissan designed the Fit.
Yes.
This is what it would look like. And without a sense of scale, this may be a smaller car.
Yeah.
Because I think the Versa is about the same size as the Fit. And I don't really know if this is going to replace the Versa, because it couldn't. The Versa just came out.
Right. Yeah, I don't think this will replace the Versa. I believe this does look like it might be smaller, because if you look at where the rear doors they come all the way back. There's not much cargo area behind there.
Right.
And this is sort of a very European thing to have. You can either have rear seats or you can have cargo space, but you can't really have both.
So this would be like Fiat 500 size.
Yeah, could be.
That would be nice, actually. A really cool, like, tiny city car. That sort of that class of vehicle is really hot right now.
Yeah, and I like the look of this design. Again, a concept, but it does show some nice lines and all that. And it'd be great to see Nissan actually come up with a coherent design
I
language.
was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Because all of their cars look like they were just designed by reaching into a box of design cues and pulling them out blindly.
Right. Everything's different. Everything's, I think, yeah, they're just, you can't really, there's no brand identity is the problem here. You look at, 3 different Nissans and it's like, is that from the same company?
Well, this kind of has some like Nissan Quest sort of things happening on the front. And as much as I don't like the way the Quest looks, the sort of trapezoidal grille, and the kind of the way that it works with the lights do work better on this smaller vehicle, in my opinion.
Yeah. I like the cutouts there, the way the grille sort of cuts into the headlight space, which is actually a cue I've seen in some other design things coming out recently.
It's kind of like taking their boomerang headlights and flipping them, and then using that to kind of mesh in with the grille. So, it's some interesting things going on there.
Yeah, and an engine for this, I would assume, they've got that 1.6 liter direct injection they've been using in the Juke, which could show up in something like this and give it great power, actually, probably more power than something this small really needs.
Yeah. Definitely way more than this car would probably ever get to market with.
Yeah.
If it ever did get to market.
Let's take it down a notch further. Well, actually kind of up and down a notch.
Right.
This is the new Fiat 500L. So Fiat is taking the 500, which they've just launched in the U.S. recently, small city car, and stretching it, making it bigger.
So this is like the Fiat Clubman.
Yes, exactly. Fiat 500 Clubman. All it needs is the hospital doors in back.
Yeah, this is probably still about the same size as a regular Mini Cooper.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be small. I think it's probably not much bigger than the standard 500 either. But it does have 4 doors.
And 4 headlights. I just realized that. I looked at this picture like 20 times, and I just realized that it's got that sort of like dual headlight Nissan Juke thing going on there.
That's funky looking. Yeah, it's because it mimics the look of the I guess those are the DRLs with the the actual headlights. So.
And it's also got fog lights too. So yeah, just like the Juke, there are way too many lights out front.
This is like those old Vespas where you put like a ton of lights all over the front of them.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can see
But they've really got
London
like a Mini
fog.
Cooper thing going on here with the black the black pillars and the contrast color roof that makes it look like it's floating. So yeah, this is definitely a very Cooper-alike, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now the question is, do people want a larger 500?
I don't think people have figured out if they actually want a small 500 yet. I think there are people who want a tiny car.
Yeah.
And if they're looking at the Fiat 500, it's because it's tiny. Granted, the 500 is the only car that Fiat sells in America right now. So, I mean, at some point they're going to have to add more models to that lineup, and unless they just kind of want to be like Scion and only have like 3 or 4 models, and that's just it.
Well, I mean, kind of like Mini though. Mini is based every car off the original Mini Cooper, and they're just slightly longer or slightly fatter or slightly.
I refuse to count the Countryman as being based off the original Cooper. It's styled similarly, but it's everything about that vehicle is just completely different and weird.
Well, let's
we'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah, we will get back to that. I don't know if the 500L will come to the U.S., although I'd imagine they do need to pump up that line if the 500 proves successful here. It's certainly successful in Europe.
Right.
Toyota is actually showing off a couple of new cars, or previewed a couple of cars for Geneva, and we talked previously about a new small hybrid, which seems like maybe a Prius next gen kind of thing. But they've also got a fuel cell car. We haven't really heard about fuel cells in a little while. This is
good reason.
the FCV-R.
The R stands for racing.
I guess.
I don't think so.
This kind of has a somewhat Prius-like roof line, but
I think actually everything from about the front fender back looks like a Prius.
Right, but then it's got this strange front hood thing going on, which I don't know. It almost looks like construction equipment.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It's I don't even have the words to describe it for the audio listeners. It looks kind of like a whale with a mustache.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a boat's bow in front of that. Yeah. There's a little bit of baleen sort of whale teeth down in some sections. Weird stuff
Just
going
look at
on.
the pictures.
Yeah, they haven't released any specs for this car, but it is interesting that they're saying we're still working on fuel cell cars, and I think they want to actually put this car into production, a fuel cell car into production in 2015. So,
I would assume that wouldn't be like full on production. Would this be like some sort of like FCX Clarity lease type program?
yeah, it might be. Fuel cell cars may be ready for production by mid this decade.
Like what? 2 years from now?
Yeah.
3 years from now? I can't do math today.
They will, I mean, I think there's going to be some test fleets out there. Maybe they'll be on the same scale as like the electric cars. There's certainly Nissan Leafs being sold, but not in huge quantity and not in every region. Another story we have from Geneva, this is kind of cool, is that Mercedes-Benz, this is more of a tech story, more of our kind of thing. Mercedes-Benz has announced that for their new A-Class, they are going to integrate the iPhone for the infotainment system and actually integrate Siri with it.
They're going to have to integrate it well, because if you look at the picture, they put the iPod dock exactly where we hate it.
Yes.
In the glove compartment where you can't actually do anything.
Right. Whenever you get in the driver's seat, it's like you got to reach way over, plug it in.
Always bring someone with you.
Yeah.
And then go like, hey, plug that in for me.
Or just have an iPhone just dedicated to being in the car. You leave it in there all the time.
Sure. Second data plan and all of that.
But yeah, the one cool thing about this, though, is that people have found that trying to use Siri with their current Bluetooth hands-free systems, it doesn't always work because Siri needs a little more direct connection, I guess.
Right. I think the thing is, if your car has its own voice command system and it doesn't defer to whatever the regular phone's voice command system would be in any case, then Siri can't jump in. So it looks like are they just giving you an option to choose to use their voice command or Siri? It'd be nice if there was just a switch. Or like an option in a menu that you could kind of go to and go like, hey, I got an iPhone. I want to use Siri. I don't really care about your voice command system.
Yeah, I think, my takeaway on this is that they're really basing this new infotainment system in the A-Class, which is not a car they sell here, although they are thinking of selling it here, around the iPhone and Siri. So, and this is the kind of integration that people have been saying, like my smartphone's great. I'd rather use that for my infotainment system. Mm-hmm. So why aren't you giving that to me? And I think they are, maybe going in that direction. And if that's something that works in the A-Class, it could certainly work in, other vehicles.
Right. Further up, maybe trickle up sort of thing in this case.
Exactly. Trickle upwards.
So if they're putting that much focus on the iPhone, this always, as an Android user, this always annoys me because it's just, I understand the iPhone is a very popular phone and it's pretty easy to develop for because it's constant. But I can't help but think like, all right, so something like a simple switch that says, I want to use my phone's voice command system means that not only are you giving that option to iPhone users, you're also giving it to Android users, because there's a perfectly good voice search or a number of perfectly good voice search apps on the Android that can be accessed that exact same way. You'd be killing two birds with one stone there. Same with Windows Mobile. But by developing specifically for the iPhone, you're essentially saying to me, as a non-iPhone user, well, if you want to use your phone in this car, you should probably not buy it.
Yeah. Well,
be prepared to like work around whatever they've got in place.
Well, there's certainly, I found, or talking to BMW, for example, who develops most of their app connections for iPhone. They're saying, we'd like to develop for Android, but there's so many flavors and everything, and it's hard to get any sort of standard out of it.
It just sounds like a cop-out.
Yeah. Well, they hopefully they'll come up with something soon, certainly. And, if they get this voice, command working well, then if that could be integrated well, there's a lot of ways this could go. But let's move on to our mini news that will be at Geneva.
Yes, I was just a second ago. I voiced a little bit of disdain for the Mini Cooper Countryman, and now I get to really kind of dive into that because Mini's actually going to be debuting a John Cooper Works version of the Countryman at Geneva this year, and it is the most powerful Mini that they've, I guess, ever made. It outputs 211 horsepower. That's only 3 more horsepower than a standard Cooper Countryman. I don't know how much the Countryman weighs more than a standard like Cooper Coupe. But I don't know if that 3 horsepower is enough to make up for the weight difference.
So they're actually cranking more power out of that JCW system, though.
This is a 4-cylinder twin-scroll turbocharged engine. So I don't know if this is exactly the same one. But, I mean, I think, yeah, I would assume so. 1.6 liters.
Yeah.
It's got to be the same one, maybe a slightly different turbo. Because this has that overboost function that we saw on some BMWs, where for a brief moment, your normal torque output is 207 pound-feet at max. But if you need like a little bit of extra grunt for a passing maneuver, for example, it can overboost to 221. So I think there's a new turbo in this vehicle.
Right. That is definitely a new version of the John Cooper Works system. So that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. So the most interesting thing I could take away from this is that eventually that engine will find its way in a proper Mini. But this other than that, I mean, this is pretty much everything else you would expect from a John Cooper Works. Suspension tweaks, a button that has sport on it. Red all over the interior. This also has the all-4 all-wheel drive system, so this is the first all-wheel drive John Cooper Works vehicle ever. Also,
sounds like a rally competitor to me.
Yeah, well,
except for the fact it's only got 200 horsepower, or 211 horsepower, which you need a little more in rally.
I suppose. Well, I mean, I guess not really. I mean, rally cars, it's kind of really more about maintaining your speed and handling.
That's true.
And balls out power.
Well, that's one of the Minis we'll be looking for in Geneva. The other one is a concept they showed off recently. They released some photos for, and I don't know if I'm going to be too excited about looking for this one.
The laziest
at Geneva
concept ever.
Yes. It's the Mini Clubvan concept, and they started off with a Mini Clubman, and they changed the M to a V.
Oh, and then they just called it a day.
Right. And they also covered up the side windows in the rear, which is like...
It's like you could have done that with a vinyl wrap. It looks like they did it with a vinyl wrap.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they just put some boards over the windows or something.
I'm pretty sure it's sheet metal if they want to call it a concept. But, I mean, as concepts go, this is pretty lazy.
Yeah, I think they still have the rear seats even. They have the doors are in the same configuration. The doors are in the exact same configuration as the Clubman. And, there's not a lot of room in the back of the Clubman to begin with, so this Clubvan doesn't exactly have a lot of room. And actually, whenever I've been thinking about this car, for some reason, Webvan always pops up into my head. Failed grocery delivery service from the .com glory days.
I don't know. I'm thinking, if you just didn't need to move a lot of stuff around, like I have a cupcake delivery service. Yeah, maybe. But I don't really understand why you would buy this over a regular Clubman unless it was less expensive.
Yeah.
Unless they were just like, hey, we took the windows out, so we're going to charge you less for it. Or if there were a stripped-down trim a la Ford Transit Connect where you just get it doesn't have anything in it.
Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't really get me
interesting.
This doesn't really get me excited about the Mini brand. I mean, they've done much cooler concepts in the past. This one, okay.
I don't know. But speaking of that was a lazy concept. This is probably, in my opinion, the stupidest concept that we're going to see at Geneva this year. It's the Range Rover Evoque convertible concept. And it's just like someone at Land Rover looked at the Murano Cross Cabriolet and said, that's crap, but yeah, we could do it too, right? So they've basically stripped the roof back on the on the Range Rover Evoque, a perfectly good crossover, mind you, and replaced it with a power folding hardtop. They've also got a rollover protection system, so if the vehicle detects it's about to flip over, hoops pop up behind the rear passenger so you don't crush yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's the exact same car with a convertible top. And I'm just like, this is something you expect to see at SEMA. And Geneva, it's just like, hey, we basically got rid of all of the trunk space in the Range Rover and made it less useful.
Right. Yeah, except you get that whole open air thing, which I think the Evoque had the Evoque had a huge glass roof.
You don't get air, but it's like on your windows down, you're about 80% there.
Yeah, and you can see the sky and everything. This you can just see all around. Maybe this is like a beach cabana sort of drive around.
The thing about 4-seat convertibles is they're only really good for the first 2 passengers. In the back seat, it's just like all that wind comes whipping over the windscreen directly into your mouth.
Right. You don't want to be on the freeway in this thing.
So it's like you've got 2 seats back there that no one's going to want to sit in anyway. I don't know. I think it's dumb.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get there, I'll look at it, and I'll sit in and decide this is the car for me.
I think what they should have done better here is just, instead of doing the whole convertible roof, just remove the roof.
Just like all together?
Yeah, just, maybe have some canvas you could
fair weather only.
Pull up over.
So like a Range Rover Evoque Spider?
Oh, you know what they could have done, actually, is made the whole interior weatherproof. So it could rain, it could snow in the thing, and it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't like mess up the
so you
interior.
mean like a Jeep Wrangler?
Exactly.
That's what you want.
I guess Jeep already makes that. So
yeah, pretty much.
All right, well,
Put a freedom top on that.
That is our Geneva preview, and my headphones are falling off my head. That is our Geneva preview. We'll be there next week posting. We'll have a special package up on CNET.com showing all of our coverage from the show. That'll start on Tuesday. We'll be posting from the show Tuesday and Wednesday, videos, blog posts, photos, all sorts of stuff, everything we can find at the show that's cool. So
I'm going to try to steal that Lytro camera from Brian Collins. That would be awesome.
Give it its first real test and real situation, yeah. But let's go on the road now. We are on the road in the BMW 328i. This is the new engine that BMW is putting into the 3 Series in the low end. They are bringing back the 4-cylinder to the U.S., which they haven't had here for years.
Right. So, as we've been seeing over years, 28 no longer means 2.8 liters. In this case, we've got a 2-liter. So, it's about the same size as the engine in a regular Honda Civic.
Yeah, but it is got direct injection.
So, there's a little bit more precision there in the metering of the fuel, better efficiency, and more power.
Right, and also a twin-scroll turbocharger, which BMW has been using a lot lately.
Yeah, so it's geared more towards comfort. No M badges anywhere, so I'm guessing there's no Sport Plus mode. So you just got regular Sport, you got Normal, and Eco Pro, which is actually, I think, what BMW wants you to pay the most attention to, because they put the Pro suffix on it.
Yeah, and part of the thing with this new engine too is that you can get an average, I think fuel economy is something like 25, 36, and you can get a fuel economy average of about 30 miles per gallon in this car if you drive it normally. I mean, if you're always hammering it, no, you won't get that good, but normal driving, I'd say about 30 average, which is really good for a BMW.
Right, so we've got a couple of efficiency technologies at work here. The first is their Efficientdynamics Regenerative system, which kind of ditches the alternator in favor of a regenerative braking system, so you don't have that alternator drag all the time when you're driving. The second is a start-stop system. So when you come to a stop at a light for longer than a couple of seconds, the engine will actually shut itself off and re-engage as soon as you lift your foot off of the brake. Fortunately, there is a button right there near the start-stop button that lets you turn that function off.
Yeah. Now, we have all the electronics in this car. This car is pretty well optioned up. So we have a screen here. Actually, I think the screen is standard. But we've got a navigation system which has good 3D maps and all this stuff. We've got a nice Harman Kardon audio system too, and a lot of audio sources as well. We've pretty much got the full range of audio sources, Bluetooth streaming, even Pandora integration, which is nice. Yeah, there's a BMW apps thing that lets you use an iPhone to get all sorts of music integration with this car. And one of the coolest things, though, one of the new things, is this head-up display that I'm looking at right in front of me projected on the mirror.
I can't see it from here. But I saw it when I was in the seat. And it is really cool. It kind of can show your speed as you're driving along, so you don't have to glance down at your speedometer. If you're doing turn-by-turn directions, it can kind of show the next turn, the distance to the turn, and the street name that you're looking for. And it's also in color, so it's really cool.
So that is the new 2012 BMW 328i, which is, as we mentioned, a pretty drastic change over the previous one, as they've dropped a couple of cylinders from the engine.
Right. They've also kind of tweaked the styling a little bit on the outside. I think it looks, I don't know if I think it looks better or not, but
I like it. It's not drastically different than the original 3 Series. I guess some BMW aficionados might be like going, "Oh, this is way different." But I mean, they lowered the front down, or the front end down a little bit. It looks like the hood has a slightly more prominent look. The grille seems to be a little narrower, or not quite as high. But yeah, I think it's a good look.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely looks. I think it looks better when you start adding the sportier things onto it, the bigger wheels for the 335, or the when you start getting into the sort of M Sport package, the more aggressive front, the lower air dam, but I guess in the 328i, I guess luxury trim, is that what we had?
Yeah, this was the luxury line.
Line.
Yeah, and I would have preferred to have the sport line because, frankly, even though this thing did handle well, I did feel that the suspension was a little bit floaty, moved a little too much in the corners.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it kind of like plays to the 3 Series being all things to all people. For some people, I mean, it is just like a really nice alternative to a Camry. It's just, oh yeah, well, it's just like I was looking at a Lexus, such and such, but then I decided to get the BMW because it's just got a nicer interior. You'd be amazed how many times I hear people say that. They're not thinking about the ultimate driving machine, and so by basically kind of splitting the vehicle into those different lines, and I think it's interesting that they're doing this sort of line thing instead of trim levels.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in addition to trim levels, they allow the vehicle to kind of the people to kind of cater the vehicle to what they're looking for.
Right, and like you're saying, I think this is a car. I mean, the 328 has often been a car for the person who isn't really into BMWs or isn't really into aggressive driving or anything like that. They just want something that's transportation. It looks nice, and they hear BMWs are good quality, and they got money to spend.
Right.
What did you think of the auto stop thing?
It only really happened once while I was driving it, and it didn't really bother me.
Yeah.
I was a little, the first time, the only time it happened, I kind of looked down and went, oh, auto start, that's interesting. And then I took my foot off the brake and I went on my way. And I would assume that over time I would just kind of either stop paying attention to it or just get used to it. I feel like if they put a button right there near the start stop button that lets you turn it off. So if you're the kind of person who just really, if you're in a rush and you're going to be like taking off from every light with everything the car's got, you can turn it off and it won't really bother you. But I think it's good that it's an option.
Yeah. Well, our missing compatriot here, Brian Cooley, loved the button to turn off idle stop. He hated that idle stop function. I've found it certainly made itself felt. The car, when the engine shut down, you felt it. When the engine kicked in, you really felt it. And you didn't really feel the same thing like in the Buick LaCrosse we had recently, which also shut off its engine at stoplights and stop signs and wherever you happen to stop. That was a lot smoother. This BMW was not, the whole idle stop experience was not smooth. Now, I think in Europe, they're sort of used to this behavior and they don't mind it. So right. BMW is saying, what's good for Europeans is good for Americans.
Yeah, well, I guess, I suppose. I don't know, I think from my frame of mind, I haven't driven very many cars that have the feature that aren't hybrids. And when you're in a hybrid, you can cheat. So it's just like, oh yeah, the engine shuts off and yeah, you can stomp on the gas and the vehicle will start moving immediately because you're cheating with electric power.
Yeah.
With this, I feel like it would take a mental switch to know that you can't just go off brake on the gas. It's like it can't be. It has to be like I'm off the brake, the engine started, now I'm on the gas. And I think just in America we're kind of used to lights green, go. Right. And it's just sometimes the light's green and you have to make sure no one's going to run the light, and it's just that extra half of a second. I think people are just so afraid the car behind them is going to start beeping because they're in such a rush that that people are kind of a little bit weird about taking that extra half a second,
right?
Just to kind of get the car going smoothly.
Well, that's one thing I found with this car is just because was very sort of aware of what the engine is doing, I would lift off the brake and wait for to really feel that engine kick in and come up to full power before I push the accelerator. And I don't think I needed to wait quite that long. And it's certainly nobody was really honking me because the way people drive in most cities, it's just like, oh, wait, the light turned green? Oh, that was
the people behind you are texting.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, there wasn't any urgency to get off from the light, except for myself. And so I didn't really find it troublesome or difficult to keep up with, people leaving off the light. But it is a little bit of a hesitation, and it is a little weird, and it's hard to sort of judge where that is. Now, see, this is the thing I think is that people, your casual buyers of this car who maybe don't really know how an engine works
Mm-hmm.
will say like, this is weird. Why is it doing this? And they'll go to the dealership and say like, can you fix this?
And the dealer will like hit the button,
Right.
and then charge
Exactly.
them like $600 because it's a BMW dealership.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know. I think that's kind of one of those things that I think would be explained when they hand you the keys to the car. It's like, oh yeah, it's got a start-stop function, so you save fuel.
Yeah.
That may be as much explanation as you get during the buying process, but I feel like if someone lets you know that, then I don't think people will just be caught off guard with it.
Nah, that's
It'll
true.
definitely happen during the test drive.
Yeah.
Maybe.
One thing I noticed too during its idle stop when that was engaged is that the wheel, you can't really turn the wheel because it's still hydraulic boosted power steering.
Really?
Yeah.
They
But-
haven't made the jump to electric like everyone else.
No, apparently not. But if you did really tug the wheel around hard, like if you really wanted to turn the wheel,
The user would start back up?
it would.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because it would realize, oh, we need boost here. So it would take a little bit long, but, it would do it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just like, laziness on BMW's part, or if it's just like the hydraulic steering helps us preserve our ultimate driving machine cred sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and it behaved like a hydraulic steering boost. I can't imagine it is electric, but it is interesting that they have held back on that, if they have, because I think other companies have done a decent job of tuning electric power steering systems. And, if you're using boost, it's, there's already some interference from the real road feel, but I think BMW wants to stick to that hydraulic boost for
At
preserving.
least one more generation.
Yeah.
It'll happen eventually.
Oh, I'm sure they'll go to electric eventually. And it's interesting, too, because this car was getting, and we're averaging like 30 miles per gallon, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And if they added electric power steering, that might boost it even more. Couple miles per gallon.
Couple miles,
Maybe
maybe
one.
like one or two.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot,
Every little bit counts, though, when you're trying to reach 40.
certainly.
When you're
Yeah.
trying to reach a cafe, whatever cafe wants them to do in a couple of years. Every little bit counts.
Right. Last thing I kind of want to discuss about this car is the app integration, which is cool. You saw me. I was actually driving a different BMW yesterday, but I was tweeting.
Oh, yeah, like I'm going to be arriving in 20 minutes.
Yeah. It was like canned tweets from the car. This has that too, the app system where it only works with the iPhone, which leaves out half of the populace. But it's kind of cool stuff. It does integrate with Twitter and Facebook. And it was funny, actually. I was looking at my Twitter feed on the screen. I saw your tweet about the Ferrari, the F12 that we just talked about earlier. And that was on the screen, so I selected it. And then there was an option to make the car read out the tweet.
Oh,
So-
I wonder how it pronounced F12 Berlinetta.
I think it did AAA at that point. Then it
Oh.
actually tried to pronounce or tried to read out the URL of the picture
Oh, nice.
too. But it was a female's voice, so I was hearing your tweet in a female's voice.
Interesting.
It was pretty funny. But it was smooth. It was a very good rendering of the text, and it didn't sound robotic at all.
These tweets look really robotic. I'm looking at them now, and it's just like, it's cold out, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm driving my BMW.
Yeah.
I'm online in my BMW with BMW Connected. Is it arriving at the street address in all caps at about 3:50 p.m.? I'm surprised that tweet doesn't say in my BMW.
Yes. Yeah, not all of them do. Although I was looking at the app that lets you do that kind of stuff, and I think you can edit the templates as well.
Oh, yeah, the first thing I would do is take in my BMW off of the end of every canned response.
Yeah, it was an amusing time out there, and I could actually retweet too. I retweeted your.
Oh, yeah, I meant to ask you that if you'd actually done that retweet from inside the vehicle.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
All right. Well, that is the BMW 328i. Let's take a look at what's in our garage. Actually, that review is up. But looking up in the CNET garage, we just completed reviews of that 328i. That review is up, posted, video's up. And the Toyota Yaris. Antoine spent a good amount of time in that car, finding out all its virtues and
Got one
virtue.
It's a car.
It's a car. Next up, we have our, in the garage right now, we have the BMW 650i. This is the new 6 Series, the 2012 6 Series. So good time driving that car. A lot of good stuff there. Tons of technology. Whoa. And then coming up, well, we've got our Geneva show next week. So we'll be looking at a lot of cars, not driving any, but we'll be at the Geneva show. That's been Car Tech Live for March 1st, 2012. I've been Wayne Cunningham here in the studio with Antoine Goodwin and Mitch Chang at the board. You can take a look at our show notes, look at the stories we just discussed, get a preview look at the Geneva show at cartech.cnet.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. You can follow me. I am Wayforn, WAY4NE.
Are you starting to regret that yet?
Sort of. Antoine is Antgoo, ANTGOO, and Brian Cooley, who is not going to be on the show for a little while. I think we'll have to catch up with him at some point. Brian Cooley, just one word on Twitter.